Call Dr. Park, now!
No, don't call Dr. Park!
The woman hit the marble floor on both knees before anyone else moved. Around her, 12 women in silk gowns stood frozen like expensive paintings that had forgotten how to breathe. Crystal chandeliers threw gold light across their perfect faces. None of them moved. None of them tried. Kang Ji-hoon was dying in his own chair. Not the slow kind of dying, the fast kind. The kind that looks like a switch being turned off inside a man. One moment he was sitting at the head of the selection table, jacket pressed, face unreadable, the particular stillness that only comes from 20 years of owning every room you walk into. The next moment his hand caught the crystal decanter beside him and he folded forward like paper. Women scrambled. Someone screamed. Bodyguards surged from the walls. 6 of them, big men who knew exactly what to do when someone pulled a weapon or blocked a door, and had no idea what to do right now. Yuna Choi pressed herself against the far wall, both hands over her mouth. Her perfect composure shattered into something raw and frightened. "Call Dr. Park," Dae-sun said. "Get Park up here now." May Calloway was already through the kitchen door. She moved faster than anyone expected a woman her size to move, and she dropped beside Ji-hoon's chair before the closest bodyguard reached in. 2 fingers to his throat. 3 seconds, ear to his mouth. One eyelid lifted, then released. She had seen this before. Not here, not 42 floors above Seoul, with the city burning blue and gold through floor-to-ceiling glass. She had seen it in a Chicago hospital corridor, on a man who didn't survive because nobody caught it fast enough. She was not going to let that happen again. "Get his jacket off." Her voice carried the way voices do when they are used to being heard over alarms. "Now. And nobody calls that doctor. You hear me? Nobody." The room went completely still. Nobody knew her name, but every person in it was listening. If this story already has you, subscribe right now and turn on that bell. Because where this goes next, you don't want to miss a single second. 3 weeks earlier, the invitation had gone to 12 women across Seoul, Tokyo, and Singapore. No names on the outside, just a black card with a gold dragon seal and 4 words printed in Korean and English. "You have been chosen." The Kang family did not send invitations. They sent summons. The women who received them, daughters of politicians, international cover models, heirs to rival business empires, understood exactly what being chosen meant. A life inside the most powerful private dynasty in East Asia. Influence no amount of money could buy on its own. And a husband who had survived things that should have killed him 3 times over. Kang Ji-hoon was 39 and had never married. His father, Chairman Kang Byung-soo, was dying in the family's private medical tower, and his last coherent demand before the morphine made conversation impossible had been simple. "Ji-hoon marries before I go, or the family name ends with me." The Dragon of Seoul had survived 3 assassination attempts and a war with the Jeju Syndicate that left 12 men in the harbor. He could not survive his father's dying wish, so he arranged a selection. One evening, 1 table, 12 candidates. He would observe, he would choose. What none of the 12 women knew, what only Dae-sung and Dr. Sung-woo Park knew, was that Ji-hoon had been collapsing in private for 6 months. Episodes, Park called them. A manageable condition, a daily prescription, a treatment protocol that sounded reasonable from a man paid enough to know every dark corner of the Kang operation. Ji-hoon never asked why the episodes kept getting worse. He never asked who Park had dinner with 12 days ago at a private room in the Lotto Hotel. 2 hours, a handshake, an envelope, and a quiet conversation about the exact value of the Kang estate if the dragon died before his father. He didn't know to ask. May Calloway arrived on the service elevator at 7:45 with a clipboard and a catering badge clipped to the only blazer she owned that still fit across the shoulders. Her friend Clara had broken her ankle that morning, and May had said yes before she heard the address. 8 years in Chicago trauma units. things that made senior surgeons cry in supply closets. May Calloway was not easily frightened, but watching through the kitchen door as 12 flawless women arranged themselves around a table built for kings, she felt something she hadn't felt since her very first code blue. Like she was exactly where something terrible was about to happen. The selection began at 8 o'clock precisely. Ji-hoon did not greet the women when he entered. He sat. Dae-sun called order. A butler poured water, and Ji-hoon looked at 12 women arranged around his table the way a man looks at a contract he is being forced to sign. Miss Lim. His voice carried without effort, the voice of a man who learned long ago that volume is for people who aren't frightening enough without it. You studied contract law at Oxford. Tell me, if a business partner smiles at you in the morning and calls your attorney by midnight, at what exact point did you know he had already turned? Miss Lim looked at Dae-sun. Dae-sun did not look back. I'm not sure I understand the question. Next. This was how it went. Question, silence, dismissal. Ji-hoon moved down the table with the patience of a man completing a process he had already decided would fail. The questions were not romantic. They were survival tests. Who could read a room? Who flinched under pressure? Who smiled when they should have been angry? Nobody passed. From the service corridor, May watched through the half-open kitchen door. She had trays to check, ice to restock. She had absolutely no business standing here with her shoulder against the doorframe, watching a Korean crime boss audition 12 women for the role of wife. But she couldn't pull herself away, because the man at the head of that table was the most controlled person she had ever seen in her life, and she was watching the control begin to slip. It was microscopic, the stillness around his left hand, the way he blinked twice in 4 seconds when he hadn't blinked at all for the previous minute, the shallow rhythm when he exhaled. Nobody in that room was trained to see it. She was. Then Yoona Choi spoke without being called on. She was at the far end of the table, and she hadn't waited her turn, and that alone told you everything about Yoona Choi. Mr. Kang. Her voice was silk over a blade. I think we can agree the questions are a formality. My family and yours have been in conversation for 2 years. I'm not here to audition. She smiled with precise, practiced warmth. I'm here to accept. The room went silent. Ji-hoon looked at her for a long, unreadable moment. Then he reached for his water glass, and his hand stopped mid-reach. He didn't pick it up. His left hand pressed flat against the table, a gesture so small that Dae-sun completely missed it. May didn't miss it. She set her tray down on the service counter without looking away. If you can already feel where this is going, hit that subscribe button right now and ring that bell, because what happens in the next 30 seconds is something nobody in that room saw coming. Ji-hoon stood up to end the evening. He rose from the chair smoothly, the way he did everything, controlled, deliberate, and then something behind his eyes simply went out. His shoulder caught the chair back. His right hand reached for the table's edge and missed it by 2 inches. The crystal decanter went first, then the water glasses, and then Kang Ji-hoon went down sideways, and his body went utterly, terrifyingly still. The room collapsed into chaos. Women scrambled backward. Someone knocked the champagne tower, and the crash of shattering crystal split through the screaming like a blade. Bodyguards flooded in from the walls, big men who knew exactly what to do when someone drew a weapon and had no framework for this. Yoona Choi pressed both hands to her mouth. Perfect composure dissolved into something raw and young and cornered. Park, Dae-sun said. Get Park up here now. She pushed through silk gowns and frozen panic, and she dropped beside Ji-hoon before the nearest bodyguard reached him. 2 fingers to his throat. 3 seconds. She tilted his chin, ear to his mouth, counting breaths. She lifted one eyelid, examined the pupil, released it. She had seen this before, not here, in a hallway in Chicago, on a man who had 4 minutes left, and nobody in that corridor understood what they were looking at. She understood. "Who are you?" Dae-sun's hand locked around her arm. "Trauma nurse, 8 years Chicago General." "Let go of my arm." "Your catering staff." "Tonight I am." "Let go." He released her. She was already pulling the pocket square from the nearest bodyguard's jacket, loosening Ji-hoon's collar, pressing her ear to his chest one more time. His pulse is erratic but present. He is not in cardiac arrest. She looked up at Dae-sun. His pupils are unequal. His left hand was tremoring before he fell. This is neurological, not cardiac. How long has he been having episodes? The silence that followed was its own answer. 6 months, Dae-sun said. "Who manages his medication?" "Dr. Park." "What did Park prescribe?" Dae-sun named the drug. May went completely still. The kind of still that happens when a mind is running very fast in a very cold direction. "That medication does not treat what you're describing," she said, and her voice had dropped to something level and precise. The voice trained for fluorescent hallways at 3 in the morning. At long-term dosage, it causes exactly this presentation. The episodes, the progression, the crash tonight. Dae-sung stared at her. "Someone has been poisoning him." She held his gaze without blinking, slowly, legally, with a valid prescription from a trusted physician. The word landed in the room, like something dropped from a very great height. Then Ji-hoon's hand moved. His fingers closed around the edge of her sleeve. Barely, the grip of a man using everything remaining just to stay present. She looked down. His eyes were half open, fixed on her face, with the fierce concentration of someone who has decided not to let the darkness win just yet. "Don't." The word was almost nothing. "Don't let them call Park." May looked at him for exactly 1 second. "I know," she said. "I already told them." She looked back at Dae-sung, at the 6 men behind him, at 12 women frozen against the walls, like a painting of a world coming apart. "I need a clean surface, bottled water, and anyone in this room who is actually trained for something. Now, move. The next 4 hours belong to May." Dae-sung got her what she asked for. He didn't fully understand why he trusted her. She was a stranger with a catering badge. She had overridden 6 armed men on nothing but certainty, and she was the least likely person to walk through that service door. Maybe that was exactly why. In Ji-hoon's world, certainty was the only currency that mattered. She worked with the focus of someone who has stopped thinking about anything except the task directly in front of her. She monitored his pulse every 7 minutes. She documented his responses on the back of a catering order sheet in the small, precise handwriting of 8 years of crisis charting. She flushed his system. She waited. Ji-hoon's color came back slowly. His breathing steadied by degrees. At some point, Yoona Choi appeared in the doorway. She had reassembled herself entirely. The composure was back, silk over blade, not a hair displaced. "How much longer?" Her voice was measured, gracious, the tone of someone accustomed to managing inconveniences. "There are 12 women here who traveled internationally. Surely Mr. Kang's team has a contingency protocol for—" "Get her out of this room," May said without looking up from Ji-hoon's wrist. Dae-sun looked at Yoona. Something crossed between them that was not a conversation. She left. By midnight, Ji-hoon was sitting up against the chaise, his jacket gone, collar open, looking at the city through 42 floors of glass with the expression of a man recalculating everything he believed about his own life. May was cleaning up, not hovering, not waiting to be thanked. "How did you know?" "The tremor in your left hand, unequal pupils, the pattern Dae-sun described." She closed her bag. "I had a patient in Chicago. Similar drug, similar timeline, similar progression." She paused for a single beat. "He didn't make it. The dosage had been climbing for 7 months before anyone caught it." Ji-hoon looked at her then. Not the way he had looked at 12 women at his table earlier. Without calculation, without distance. "You caught it," he said. "Tonight I did. Tomorrow you need a full independent panel, a physician with no connection to your organization, and you stop taking whatever Park prescribed, immediately." "Park has worked for my family for 11 years. "I know." She picked up her bag. "That's what worries me." She was almost to the door. "May." She turned. He had never asked her name. Dae-sung must have told him. "Thank you," he said. It was the simplest sentence. It sounded like it cost him something real. She nodded once. "Hit that like button if this story is holding you. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the right person walks in when you least expect them. Subscribe, because the next part is where everything breaks open." The full blood panel came back in 36 hours. The report was 4 pages of clinical language that meant one thing. Someone had been trying to kill Kang Ji-hoon for 6 months and calling it medicine. The drug was a slow cardiac and neurological disruptor, dosed precisely enough to mimic a degenerative condition. Timed to peak during the period of the bride selection, when Ji-hoon's death would leave the Kang estate without clear succession and trigger a legal window that a competing organization had been quietly positioning to exploit for 2 years. That organization had a name. So did the man they had paid to administer the poison, one prescription at a time. Dae-sun laid the file in front of Ji-hoon at 8 in the morning and said nothing. Ji-hoon read it twice. He set it down. He looked at the city. He did not raise his voice. He picked up his phone and made 3 calls, each one short, quiet, and final. By noon, Dr. Sung-woo Park was in a room he would not leave under his own power for a very long time. By that afternoon, the documents connecting the Choi family to the competing organization were on a prosecutor's desk. Yuna had known, not everything, but enough. The 2-year conversation between their families had never been about a marriage. It had been about position, about being inside the Kang household when the dragon finally collapsed. She had sat at his table and announced she was there to accept. She had been there to collect. When Dae-sung told May what the panel had confirmed, she sat down and said nothing for a full minute. "He would have been dead by spring," she said finally. "Yes," Dae-sung said. She nodded, the way nurses nod when they have absorbed something that would undo most people. Then she picked up her bag and said she needed to go home. She made it to the lobby. Ji-hoon was already there. He had walked down 42 floors on feet that were still unsteady, jacket gone, standing at the elevator doors when they opened. Dae-sun was 3 steps behind him, with the expression of a man who had tried to stop this and clearly failed. "I owe you my life," Ji-hoon said. "You owe it to your own blood panel. I just read it." May shifted her bag to the other shoulder. "Get some rest, Mr. Kang. Take nothing until you have an independent physician. I'd like that physician to be you." She looked at him. He was not charming. He was not performing. The Dragon of Soul was standing in a marble lobby at 1 in the morning, looking at her exactly the way she had watched him look at 12 other women at his table. Reading. Actually reading. "I'm a trauma nurse, not a physician. You knew something no physician I employed would admit to knowing." She was quiet for a moment. "I'll send you a list of independent specialists," she said. "No family connections. Come back tomorrow. Coffee, as a person, not a nurse." May looked at the man who had almost died in front of 40 people and been saved by the one woman nobody in that room had looked at twice. She thought about it for 3 seconds. "Black," she said. "I take it black." If this story moved you, hit like and share it with someone who needs to hear that worth has nothing to do with appearance. Subscribe and drop a comment. Would you have helped him?